Welcome back. Our next session will be moderated by Dr. Dawn Wallin. Dr. Wallin is an Associate Dean of Undergraduate Programs, Partnerships and Research at the University of Saskatchewan's College of Education. Her areas of scholarship include educational leadership, rural education and governance, gender and equity issues in education, and teacher education. Dr. Wallin has held a number of formal and informal leadership administrative positions over the course of her career. And she's worked to design effective educational programming opportunities. She has consulted or partnered with organizations that represent a variety of interests, including ministries of education, educational organizations, regional colleges, and university faculties. Dr. Wallin has also held executive positions for the Canadian Association for Educational Administration, the Canadian Association for Women in Education, and the Canadian Society for the Study of Education. It is a great pleasure to introduce the moderator of the Education, Gender, and Inequality thematic session, Dr. Dawn Wallin.
To introduce our four presenters on this session, followed by a 10 to 15-minute question and answer. So during each presentation, as been the case today, the chat will be turned off and then will later be turned on during the question and answer period for discussions and questions. So without ado, I would like to begin our session today by introducing our first speaker, who happens to be a colleague of mine in the College of Education. So it's wonderful to be able to introduce her today. I would like to introduce Dr. Pei-Ying Lin, who is an associate professor in the Department of Educational Psychology and Special Education. Over the years, Dr. Lin has worked with diverse populations of children, youth, parents, in-service and pre-service teachers, university faculty members and staff, and a number of testing agencies. Her research interests include the use of quantitative, qualitative, and experimental approaches in studying the instructional and assessment practices of English language learners and students with special needs. She's continued to work on an array of research projects since the completion of her doctorate at the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education of the University of Toronto. Today, Dr. Lin will open our session with the thematic session on an international perspective of teachers' beliefs about inclusion, implications for inclusive education in Canada. Welcome, Dr. Lin.
Thank you so much, Dawn. I'm so happy to see you all this afternoon. I'm glad I have this opportunity to share some of the research work I have been done with my research team. Today, I would like to share with you this project I have done with my research team. That is about we're looking at from an international perspective of the teachers' belief about inclusion. And in this presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about the implication for inclusive education in Canada. Looking at our human history, as you know, that it's not surprising to see there is a long history of segregations and exclusion of children with special needs in our public schools around the world. So that's why, you know, it's these ideas was inspire my team. My team has Dr. Roy Chains at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. And also we have wonderful colleagues from Taiwan, Dr. Chu Hua Wang, and also the Dr. Pei-Ying Lin from University of Texas. My colleague was very helpful for this research, as everyone's making great effort to collecting the data from Taiwan and also United States. So today we were going to looking at these two countries in terms of what teacher candidates they think about in terms about inclusive education in the both country. As you know that give you an example, about 2 years ago, our College of Education Dr. Wallin was doing a very great work in terms of building an international educated teacher program in our college. That programs offer all kind of classes to the teachers that they were has been educating in the international context. And they want to be eligible to teach the children in our province. So that program is one of example that's kind of aligned with what we are doing for these projects. And also our project was in line with the UN's SDG goal, which is we want to promote. We all know that quality education for all students in the inclusive classroom is very important, because from the literature, there's a huge body of the research has been telling us that quality educations to all of the students with and without special needs has a short and long-term impacts on our students, their social involvements after they leave the school. And also it has a significant impact on the economic growth, country developments, for example. So this study, we will start looking at the definition of the inclusive education. So the inclusive education is a process by responding to individual differences with the structure and the process that are eligible to all learners in our classroom. And so providing quality and eligible learning opportunity to all students with and without special needs can benefit both the education system and society as whole. And so because why we were thinking that this is aligned with the SDG goal number 4 is because if we're looking at the reports from the WHO and the World Bank of the 2011, that's that in this report, it just tells us that it's very worrisome. We do see if we're looking at the international landscape, looking at the entire world population, which is 6.4 billion people around the world at that time. And among these world populations, we do have 793 million children, people that with moderate disability. And also we have 185 million people with severe disability. So for sure, this is, it might be seems to a number, but the number was really, it's really significant. And also if we narrow down to looking at the youth population, which is those children under age 14, we were going to see that, so, in terms of our entire disability population, which is 978 million, we also have 80 million of children with under age 14 with moderate disability. And also, if we're looking at the student with severe disability, we also have 30 million people around the world has severe disability. So these numbers, it's, as this is a COVID pandemic, and it's pretty common. People can go to the websites and refreshing the web pages to keep track of the daily, death tolls or those positive cases each day. But the thing is that but this is not the data I'm showing here. It was have been collected in 2011. What I'm trying to say here is that the number we've seen here are likely to be smaller because I believe that the population of the student with special needs is still growing, just like those according to the international trend. And so here's what give everyone another example is that from the statistic in the Central and Eastern Europe and the Commonwealth of the independent states, there is in this region, it estimates there is 5.1 million children with disability. And within this region, actually, it's quite shocking that there is 1 million children being identified, but did not receive any special education program or services. And also there's a 3.6 million children, they either not has been identified or receive any special education program or services. So this is all for sure. We see here was just number, but reality, this is each children's, which means that even children's in those populations, their needs haven't been fully attended and addressed. And also, I would just like to point out because one of the research project has been doing right at this time, we was interviewing teachers about how they work with the student with special needs during the pandemic, and we found even the student in our in Canada with special needs, we will just feel that they are doubly disadvantaged because they has been forced to use the remote learning and teaching, which is not the best for some students with special needs. It's not just something that has been, being able to do for their daily basis classroom. So, even like the children in Canadian school, the student with special needs is somehow during the pandemic, their learning opportunity may be fewer than other students with special needs. So it's really caution and alarming to us, saying like the children's in the other region or other country around the world, it might be, it's likely they was even more disadvantaged during the pandemic, before and during or even after the pandemic. So, so we're looking at the literatures around the world. There are lots of the study has been done for sure in Canada. Also, we can find Australia, Bangladesh, Germany, India, South Africa, Israel, UK, and of course the US. So amongst this study, we has been, I can learn from this study is that overall, as teachers in those studies, they are generally, they have strong belief toward inclusive education. However, they also point out they have their own concern in terms of, for example, a lack of the human resources, fundings. There's an increased workloads and demands, and also they have to hold accountability for for their student with and without special needs in their classroom. Those are the concerns that has been expressed, identified by those researchers in different countries. And so our research, this study, we were particularly looking at 3 questions. The first one is, what were the teacher candidates' belief toward inclusion? And the second, we also ask, did the teacher candidates hold positive belief about certain types of special needs, while they hold negative belief toward different type of student with special needs? And the last one is there a significant differences in terms of teacher candidates inclusion belief between US and Taiwan? So here's was just put this study and research question in the context, because this is important for everyone to have a better understanding of the context of the both country. Okay, so we kind of here was give everyone just a very quick overview and snapshot of what's going on in both systems. So for the both country, there is a similarity and differences. It's very similar that because the Taiwan's was model of the US special education's philosophies and the theory. So both the countries, their legal requirements that mandates that all children with special needs, they should receive free and appropriate special education system in the public school system. And so, which means that the students should be educating in inclusive classroom setting to the maximum extent with their peers without special needs. Okay, that's the bottom line. But the thing is that it's likely based on the students, their special needs and their individual education plan, and there's, they may be placed in segregated school or self-contained classroom, which means that they are maybe educating in a setting that is different from their peers without special needs in classroom or in school. And also for in terms of a qualification, teacher qualification is in both countries. They will prepare the teacher candidates through teacher education program in the 4 years programs, but also they do can get their qualification after they finish their master program. But the thing is that it's very because looking back to Canada's, it's very common that inclusive education is the first priority across provinces. However, given that Taiwan and the US, that it's people believe in inclusive education, but because the history, again, those students with special needs, it's likely based on their education plan and the decision on the placement. They maybe be placed in special classroom. The classroom, because now still have the classroom and schools that's only for example, children with intellectual disability, with the visual impairments, or those with the hearing impairments. That's those examples. So that's the realities and the policy that has been put in place in US and Taiwan. Okay, so for we'll just quickly talk about the research methods. In total, we recruit 334 teacher candidates in both countries. And what I would like to show you, just switch quickly to the tables. We have the descriptive statistics of the teacher candidates in our study. So it's very interesting to see that we do have a few students, they have the disability. And also they report that they have family members with disability. And the move on, this is just the frequency tables that we're showing later, because we will have the 10 questions that we use in our 5-point liter scale. That for 5 liter scales teacher survey, we have 10 questions, and each of the 10 questions was addressing one particular student population. For example, the question 1, we asked, do you think students with learning disability can be educated in the general classroom? Okay, and the second question is asking the student with emotional and behavior disorder. So in total, we asking the question about LD, which refer to learning disability, and EBD, which refer to emotional and behavior disorder. And the HI is hearing impairments, and the VI is the visual impairments, and ID is the intellectual disability. And the mobility was represent the student with physical disability. And we also asking the student with HIV or AIDS. And another group is the neurological disorder. And the next one is the developmental disability. And the last one is the speech language impairment. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go quickly about our conclusion, because based on the correlation tables, we do see that the student teacher candidates, they have a strongly belief. Sorry. Okay, so we could see that the teachers who holds a strong belief in one group of the student with special needs, they also likely to hold a strong beliefs believe that another group of children with special needs can be educated in the inclusive classroom. So overall, we can see that both group of teachers, they hold strongly belief towards inclusion. However, we do see, again, because they're segregated, the children may be placed in the segregated self-contained classroom or school, especially for a student with visual impairments, and the student with hearing impairments, and the student with the intellectual disability. And that's for Taiwan. And on the other hand, there also is very similar that the teacher believe that the children with intellectual disability or visual impairments are less likely can be successfully educating in the inclusive classroom. So this is very interesting to see how there's teachers that believe actually it interacts with what has been implemented in the reality. So if there's the school we do have offer like specialized classrooms and the schools for those group of students, for example, students with intellectual disability and sensory impairments, it's likely teachers also believe that these children should be educated in those schools and classrooms. So it's very interesting through our study in the data. We overall found both group of teachers, they believe that children can be educated in the general classroom successfully, but that's this kind of belief may be differ in terms of which group of students with special needs we are looking at. Thank you so much for listening. I would just like to wrap up my presentation very quickly by saying to everyone that enjoy your conferences, and thank you so much for organizing these wonderful conferences for everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Lin. It is so wonderful to see that inclusion beliefs are increasing and that there's a general openness to making sure that those students are served in our general classroom schools. Thank you very much for sharing your presentation with us today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Our next presenter is an ambassador with a career as an international diplomat spanning over 2 decades. Ambassador Miguel Ruiz Cabanas Izquierdo is the director of the SDGs Initiative at Tec de Monterrey and a co-chair of the Mexican chapter of the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, otherwise known as SDSN Mexico. Appointed ambassador in 1998, he has served as Mexico's permanent representative to the Organization of American States and was appointed ambassador of Mexico to Japan from 2004 to 2011. Following that appointment, he was named ambassador of Mexico to Italy and permanent representative to several international organizations based in Rome. In 2015, Ambassador Ruiz Cabanas was appointed Undersecretary for Multilateral Affairs and Human Rights, a position he held until November 2018. He has been a professor at the Ibero-American University and Monterrey Institute of Technology and Higher Education, as well as the College of National Defense. It brings me great pleasure to introduce and welcome to PAW 2021 and to the University of Saskatchewan, Ambassador Miguel Ruiz Cabanas Izquierdo and his presentation, Alliances as a Key Element to Promote Sustainable Education. Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wallin. Thank you very much for this very kind presentation, and thank you to the University of Saskatchewan for the invitation to participate in this very timely conference, people around the world conference, with speakers from, I guess, different parts of the world and our continent. I'd be very glad to share with you some of our experiences that we have had promoting sustainable education. My theme will be alliances as a key element to promote sustainable education. Next. Well, just let's recall what the SDG 17 is all about. It is precisely to promote alliances to achieve the rest of the other 16 SDGs. And it's supposed to cover all stakeholders, governments, private sector, trade unions, civil society organizations, and very important for all of us, universities and research institutions. We are all fundamental to achieve the SDGs. What is the role of we, the universities? Well, the role is to mobilize professors, researchers, students, talents, and resources to find new solutions to achieve SDGs at local, national, regional, and international levels. As you may recall, Goal 1716 reaffirms the importance of enhancing global partnerships for sustainable development, but more focused in our team today is Goal 1717, which encourages effective partnerships at national and local levels to achieve the SDGs. Next. Next. Siguiente. SDG 4, Goal 17, let's recall it again, related to sustainable education and global citizenship. Let me read it carefully because I think it's important just to grasp what is exactly what we are supposed to do at the universities promoting sustainable education. One, ensure that all learners acquire the knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development. Through education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyles, human rights, gender equality, promotion of a culture of peace and nonviolence, global citizenship, and appreciation of cultural diversity and of culture's contribution to sustainable development. I think that to promote really the achievement of this Goal 7 of SDG 4, To promote it effectively, universities need to do three things. One, reaffirm their own commitment to sustainable developments and the SDGs. Two, universities must strengthen their teaching and research activities related to the SDGs. And third, universities must enhance their alliances with governments, private sector, and civil society organizations to find new solutions. And obviously, universities must promote and enhance their own alliances among themselves. Next. Let me refer briefly what are the Tec de Monterrey capabilities in this regard. We are a university committed to sustainable development and the SDGs. The Tec de Monterrey goal is become a national leader in SDGs promotion and implementation. Because of this this goal, we have recently established a new office of vice president. That means a very high level in the hierarchy at the university, a new office of a vice president for inclusion, social impact, and sustainability. We are working, the initiative that I have the honor to be the head of, we are coordinating our work with this new Office of the Vice President for Inclusion, Social Impact, and Sustainability. This office must promote the change within the Tec de Monterrey and all the 26 campuses to transform our institution in a sustainable institution in the coming 2 or 3 decades. We are a university that promotes multidisciplinary approach. The Tec de Monterrey is indeed a very big institution. So we have teaching and researching activities to address all the SDGs. Just to give you an idea, every year, 1,600 courses per year are taught related to one or more SDGs. We have more than 1,100 researchers working on topics, again, related to one, two, or more of the SDGs. We have 26 campuses throughout our national territory, and Tec de Monterrey has 91,000 students. And our sister university, Tec Milenio, counts 61,000 students. So between the two, we are almost 150,000 students. It's indeed the largest private university in Mexico. Next. Just to give you an idea of the degree that we have institutionalized the SDGs at Tec de Monterrey, as a first result of the new Vice President's Office for Inclusion Sustainability, they recently published this report called Report on Social Impact, relating to the activities that have a social impact in the years 2018-2019. This report was issued last year, and it contains more than 800 different activities that the Tec de Monterrey campuses are developing throughout the year. It's really an impressive amount of activities with a social impact. All those activities have been accommodated in the report in accordance with the impact they have in one or more of the SDGs. So it is very easy to read. You can get it from the internet. Just put it in Spanish. Unfortunately, we don't have a translation into English yet, but you can find it in Spanish and you can download it from the internet. The Tec de Monterrey, December 2019, decided to adhere with a letter to the Climate Emergency Declaration by higher education institutions. With this declaration, the Tec de Monterrey committed itself to sustainable development and especially to those SDGs that may have an impact against climate change. Our idea is to become carbon neutral by the year 2030, or the latest 2039. Next, please. We are the initiative of sustainable development objectives at the Tec de Monterrey. We belong to one of the schools of the Tec de Monterrey, the School of Social Sciences and Government. We have 5 areas: education, research, public policies, evaluation and proposals, advice for public, private, and social sectors, as well as co-coordinating the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, along with the National University of Mexico. In this regard, we have strategic projects, activities. We are developing many multi-actor alliances and collaborations, and we are promoting investigation and SDGs implementation. Next, please. These are some of our strategic projects. As I said, we are promoting collaboration with other universities. Tec de Monterrey has a very interesting collaboration with 2 Latin American universities. One is the Universidad de los Andes, UniAndes, located in Bogotá, Colombia. And the other one is the Pontificia Universidad Católica de Chile at Santiago de Chile. We have been working with them, and we just recently, last November, we hold our first conference on prospects for the SDGs for this year and in the coming months. We have a report of this very interesting conference. For the first time, we gather researchers from the 3 universities to talk about and discuss how our universities and indeed our countries should confront the current year affected by this virus. Next, please. We are, as was mentioned before, we are coordinating the solutions development, the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, along with the National University of Mexico. This network objective is to promote a wide range of project-based solutions where everyone can contribute for a sustainable future in Mexico. We are promoting best practices, research and technological solutions for sustainable development, education for sustainability, multi-actor alliances, as well as funding. As a first result, I would say, of this, of the work of the SDSN Mexico chapter, we designed and developed a bank of projects. We have already identified more than 400 initiatives from several universities and education centers in Mexico. 90 of those projects were selected to be promoted to the next stage, which is getting or finding appropriate funding for them to be developed. We are increasing the network's membership in our country. We already have 64 educational and research institutions that represent 70% of the national coverage. Next. Next. We are also members of the University Global Coalition. This group of universities was established in Bellagio, Italy in May 2019. And at the end of the meeting, they adopted a declaration called a Declaration on University Global Engagement with the SDGs. And the university decided to, the coalition decided to promote 6 commitments. 1, increase students' understanding of world challenges and SDGs and inspire them to play active role in finding new solutions. 2, develop students' global competences and leadership skills. 3, engage in actionable research, knowledge, and innovation activities. 4, engage with private and public actors. 5, recognize impact on operations on sustainable development. And 6, communicate publicly progress and be accountable on outcomes. This university global coalition is really working very hard. We have already 137 members in the coalition. In Mexico, we are working a lot at the Tec de Monterrey. Right now, at the initiative, we are focused on drafting a students' action toolkit. We are working with other universities, members of the coalition, in trying to develop a very practical students' action toolkit to teach students not only how to work on SDGs, but how to live their schools and societies and communities in the progressing in sustainable development. Next. We have other strategic projects. We are implementing a program of workshops, training municipal personnel in the SDGs and how they can implement their own sustainable development agenda at the municipal level. We have already gave this around 6 or 7 of these workshops. Our plan is to cover the entire country. Next. We are also teaching at the Tec de Monterrey with an SDG approach. Tec de Monterrey adopted a new education model based on challenges. That is to teach the students not only the theory, but the practice of the discipline they are studying on. So the whole model is focused on developing and teaching the students how to overcome the challenges the discipline that they choose represent. We developed a new course focused on the SDGs, and we are planning to extend our course to the entire 26 campuses of Tec de Monterrey. Next. We are also promoting research with the SDG approach. This year, we will have our second call of papers for focus on research on the SDGs. Next. Well, thank you. This was my last slide. As you can see, the university, the Tec de Monterrey, is really engaged in promoting sustainable education. Our idea is to teach and to inspire and to promote the leadership skills of our students. We firmly believe that the young people at the universities, the next generation people, they are really entitled not to work for the future, but to start working today in promoting SDGs implementations at their own homes, with friends at the universities, with other students at the universities, and within their own local communities. We believe it is very important that we teach them to be leaders and to lead in this global task of promoting the implementation of the SDGs. I thank you very much for your attention.
Ambassador, thank you so much for that presentation. This was impressive, thoughtful strategies, and what a comprehensive approach you're taking. I just hope that you consider our university one of those of your alliance. We can learn a lot from your example. So thank you very much for being with us today.
Much.
I want to introduce our third presenter of the afternoon, Ms. Sally Abu Sabaa. For over 20 years, Ms. Sally Abu Sabaa has been a passionate educator and a post-secondary education researcher. As an English for academic purposes manager and a PhD candidate at York University, she is primarily concerned with raising consciousness in education and integrating the Sustainable Development Goals to prepare active global citizens for the future. Today, Sally will present her work on rediscovering English for academic purposes in the context of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Welcome, Sally.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really grateful for the generous introduction, and I'm really impressed by the great presentations that we had, and Tec de Monterrey definitely inspired me a lot. As we saw, the initiatives that we were seeing were made on the university level. I'm just going to talk about the program level. So it's something that I think it's not really seen a lot, which is integration of the SDGs in English for academic purpose, pathway programs to international students. So let me introduce myself first. So again, my name is Sally. I'm the manager of English for academic purpose at York University English Language Institute, which is part of the School of Continuing Studies at York University. It's the largest English Language Institute in Canada right now. So what is this presentation about? This presentation is more about the adventure that we went through in the fall of 2020, which is this past fall, of integrating the SDGs as a thematic context for language learning. It was a project that was supposed to initially start in May, but because of COVID, it has been delayed. And I'll tell you why we actually embarked on doing this, regardless of people holding back from such initiatives these days. So I'm going to talk about the teacher and the student experience and the immersive experience they had in order to raise inclusive global citizen for the future. The agenda today, I'm going to talk about international education in Canada, which I'm sure a lot of you know about, but it's growing. COVID has delayed it for sure, but it has been growing in the last 5 years. I'm going to talk about the role of York University, which is one of the really attractive universities for international students. I'm going to give you some information about the YU Bridge program, which is the program I'm managing, and what sparked the interest in integrating the SDGs, and the journey from the conception to implementation of the SDGs in the English for academic purposes, teachers as learners and researchers, and students. And I'll show you a sample of the students' work. So Canada has been rated in 2017 as the 4th destination globally for international education after US, UK, and China. In 2018, Canada witnessed 16% growth of international student population, and in 2019 it was 13. It reached 642,480 international students in Canada in 2019. Students choose Canada for its safety, quality of education, and its tolerance as well. York University is one of the attractive universities for international students. We have 5,000 international students on campus, which is about 12% of the total student population. York University English Language Institute, which is known as ULE, contributes a lot to the population of the international students on New York. So we provide about 40% of those students through our language pathway programs. The YU Bridge program is the fastest growing and the largest of its kind in North America. It has grown over 400% since 2015. So let me tell you about this program. So this program is basically, it runs 3 times a year, like any, like the entry points at the university. It's an 8-month program. So it's September to April, May to December, and January to August. So students who are international students who are academically qualified to York University but lack the language requirement are conditionally admitted to York University in one of the degree programs of their choice. And then they take English language, English for academic purposes, to reach the language cutoff for admissions at York University. While they are in the 8 months program, they take 20 hours of language instruction per week, plus they take 1 3-credit course at York University with their direct entry peers. So they take 1 course per semester. So by the end of the program, they finish about 2 courses and sometimes 3 while they are at the university with their peers. What is the role of the university? Why did we think about this project? In November 2019, we were in another conference and we saw a lot of talk about professional education, vocational training, and we were a group of instructors as well as management, and we talked about, okay, what is the university? What is the role of the university? What differentiates university from corporate training, for example. And this is when the question of global citizenship came up. And since we cannot, in this conference, we talked about, since we cannot predict what kind of jobs are coming in the next 2 years, how could we prepare our students for jobs that we don't know? So what is the role of the universities? Basically preparing a student or preparing a citizen who can function or who can be agile enough to function in different disciplines with basic human ethics and morals. And this is when we thought about the SDGs as the context for education. We were planning, as I said, to implement that, not knowing that COVID was coming. We started the meetings right after we came back from the conference. We had about 5 meetings of 2 hours each in preparation for integration, then COVID hit. And we were planning to delay that, but then we said, like, you know what? The message of COVID-19 is we're in this together. And this is actually the best, I know that it's unfortunate, the event of COVID, but it's the message itself calls for this kind of engagement and collaboration and teaching about the world and for the world. So this is when we decided to go with the agenda of integrating the SDGs as a thematic context in English for academic purposes. There were also other reasons why we did that. York University just released its academic plan in the summer of 2020, which is just this last summer. It's a university academic plan for the next 5 years, and it's all the framework of the university academic plan is based on the SDGs. My school, which is the School of Continuing Studies, has also released a strategic plan, and 4 out of these 6 priorities were around the SDGs. Also, York University is one of the few universities that has a UNESCO chair for reorienting education towards sustainability. So we have this kind of support and resource as well to go to in order for orientation and guidance. The fourth and the most important thing that we were looking for in terms of the discipline specific, which is English for academic purposes, is contextualizing language learning. And this is having a thematic language curriculum helps in boosting language learning and increasing the vocabulary of the students. And there are a lot of research on that, is like how much a student should be exposed to a word or a certain group of words in order to learn. And we found that when we contextualize language learning, the student is more likely to actually produce and use the language than learning in diverse kind of fields without focus on specific vocabulary. So what did I do, which is the leadership role, and along with the senior management? We went, as I said, we did 5 2-hour brainstorming sessions with the instructors. We have a very strong union, and I'm sure you know York University has a strong unionized environment. So we had to engage with a lot of instructors on the union to get them on board with this idea. We provided, the most important thing is providing a flexible framework as well. So I did not want to start this project with a rigid structure that would limit the teacher's creativity. We have a really strong staff of instructors, and we really trust their creativity. What we wanted to do is provide a framework or a foundation where the teachers can be creative within this framework, and this framework will be flexible enough to accommodate the material and the resources that the teachers will create. So we revised the language outcomes and the curriculum outline, the assignment descriptors. So what we did, we focused, we geared all the assignments towards the SDGs. We kind of made our assessment, we flipped it from test-based to project-based language assessment. So basically students had to produce projects at the end around SDGs using English for academic purposes. The other thing that was really important and essential in implementing this project is communication. Communication is really essential in this case. The continuous flow of information. I wanted at the end to create a community of practice. And this is really important. And we are talking about collaboration all the time in SDGs, collaboration locally and globally with other institutions. So we have to start within the institution first. So in order to do this, at the beginning, in September, I did not see the result of the work until I think October. It started in September. Mid-October, I started to see teachers engaged, teachers exchanging ideas, exchanging material, exchanging information and resources as well. And this has taken about 1 to 2, first of all, the orientation, the onboarding, the training. This was first, and then about 2 or 3 emails a week of exchange of information and forwarding information. So managing the flow of communication is important. Continuous encouragement and creating a competitive yet collaborative environment is really nice as well. It's essential. Providing a flexible structure, as I said, versus defined structure to boost creativity, and connecting with partners on campus. So the UNESCO chair, Charles Hopkins, was really supportive and helpful in this initiative. He came in and met with the teachers. We talked about it. So it's kind of a selling point as well. And we also engaged with faculty on campus. So as I said, the students are taking English for academic purpose and courses at York University. And one of the courses that they're taking is in environmental studies. So it was really nice to connect with the professor who's providing the course and see what he's doing about sustainable development goals. And he already had it integrated. So it was a nice way of creating an eco-learning environment for the students based on sustainable development goals. What is the role of the teacher in this? The teachers were researchers, were learners, and were part of a community. And recognizing those roles make the teachers more relaxed, because teachers by nature like to be masters of the curriculum, or masters or subject matter experts. And they are subject matter experts in the field of English for academic purposes, but we're not subject matter experts in terms of the SDGs. So we have to be okay with taking the time to learn and understand and exchange information right with the students. So the teacher in this role was a researcher and a learner and a part of a community of practice. I ran a survey in the middle of the semester. So it was actually in October. And I am sure if I ran the survey again at the end of the semester, I would have actually other results as well. Because by the end of December, we had a student-led webinar, which was inspired by the students. And they are the ones who suggested this idea. And it was a great success for the students. And this is when a lot of teachers were so thankful and grateful for this journey. They were tired, of course, because they had to go through it during this time. But at the same time, they were very happy with the outcome of their work in class. So one of the questions I asked, so I had 10 instructors in the fall, and 7 of them took the survey, and it was anonymous survey. So do you believe that the SDGs, integrating SDGs in education in general is worthwhile? And 6 out of the 7 instructors said yes. 1 said somewhat. I actually quoted their feedback below. One, like, the kind of feedback, because it's important, it's informative in my future plans as well. So one of them really said that the SDGs are worthwhile. We really need to educate global citizens, prepare them for the future. The other comment was talking about how the SDGs are diffuse. Each SDG leads to a rabbit hole of information. They are loadable. If the materials were clearly defined related to SDGs, I would be happy to incorporate them in the lesson plans. And this shows you also, like, we deal with different kinds of instructors, and instructors are like learners, so they have their different preferences. So I did provide a foundation or a framework, but not really a defined structure. But some instructors would prefer the defined structure. And based on that, I actually now working with a group of instructors to build a kind of a defined curriculum. However, I'm still leaving a space for the teacher's creativity. Students were also participated in a survey, and there are about 57% participation. 83 out of 145 international students participated in the survey, and they were very interesting outcome. It's about 35 questions. I picked some of the questions to show you here, because it shows you some good, insightful information. So the first question was like, do you think that what ULE has done, which is the York University English Language Institute, incorporating the SDGs is a good initiative? And 77% of the respondents indicated yes, it was. And why do you think, the second question, why do you think ULE wanted to integrate the SDGs? And it was a really nice feedback, because 73.5% of them figured out why do we want to do this. And it says to help educate future global citizens to improve the world. The other question here was about, do you think it's important to learn about the UN's SDGs? And 78% of the students said yes, it's important. And about like, I think 15 students, which I don't know, the percentage is small, which is saying, I'm not really sure. Please choose, one of the options was based on this question. Please choose the option that best describes. So 48% of the students said, I think that learning about the SDGs will help me contribute to the goals. And 34% of the students says it's interesting to learn about the SDGs. Do you want to continue learning about the SDGs when you go to your York University degree? And 64% of the students indicated that they would like to learn about the SDGs as part of their York University programs. And do you feel that more people need to learn about the SDGs? And 86% of the students thought that more people need to learn about the SDGs. Those two questions are really also crucial. The program that I'm running, the YU Bridge program, is kind of a it's a program that like few people can afford. It's not like a cheap program. So when I asked this question, like what of the 17 goals are the of interest to you? And by far, zero hunger, which is number 2, SDG 2, was the number 1 appealing for a lot of the students. And it actually made me happy seeing this kind of result, which means that the students are engaged in topics maybe not really related to them or related to their course about climate change, but still of interest to them. And the other question that was really interesting was like, would you like to learn issues about your own country or Canada or the world? And 80% of the respondents said that they would like to learn about world issues as opposed to their home or North America. The last question was like, as an international permanent resident studying in Canada, do you think learning about the SDGs will help you integrate better in the Canadian society or the global society or both? And 42% of the students said globally, and 39% said that it will integrate in both Canada and the world. I would like to show you now just because I have like 1 minute. So I would like to show you one of the assignments that we had for the students that was really interesting to show you how we manage this. So this is a very simple assignment, and it was actually for level 1 students, and which is the first term, I mean term 1 students. And those students are who are weaker in language, which is a 5.0 IELTS. So we told them, we asked the students, and because of online learning, it's amazing because those students were in their home countries, so Vietnam, South Korea, China, and we asked them to take a picture of interest to them and talk about it in terms of SDGs. And this assignment was, by the way, at the beginning of the semester. So one of the things is like, there's a student in Vietnam who took a picture of a market, a street market, and she said that this represents SDG 1, no poverty, SDG 2, zero hunger, and SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities. She said that people are dealing with the sellers in the market, street market, which is not the supermarket we usually know in the developed countries. And there are many bikes on the road, and I feel that this image can help people understand what is going on in this world. Another one that I found really interesting, and there are lots of them, they're all interesting to me, but those are the ones that I'm going to pick. Another picture of was commented on by a student from China, and he said that his grandfather took this picture, and this picture represents SDG 1, no poverty, SDG 2, no hunger, and SDG 4, quality education. He said we could see a group of students studying hard, but there were no desks, no chairs, and the houses at the back were shabby. After seeing this picture, I feel that I am living a happy life now. These students have to study hard in a difficult situation, so I live in such a privileged environment. Why should I not study hard? And this was one of the simple assignments. It wasn't a project. That what we do at the end, we start with those simple assignments as a warm-up, and then we gear all the assignments to a final project and presentation at the end. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Like, I had a video, but I don't think that I have the time for it. Thank you very much for the presentation, and over to Dawn, I guess.
Well, thank you very much. Those of us that have worked in leadership, I think since this was would always say never lose the opportunity of a crisis to promote a good end. So it's really, I mean, I know COVID might have spurred some of the questions, but the reality is you've paid such thorough attention to not only the learning of the students in a contextualized format, but to taking care of those instructors and making sure that they were ready and had that community of practice where they could work together on something that probably was new. And yet COVID brings together the world in ways that it also separates us, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Right on it, Dawn. Thank you. Yeah.
yeah. So thanks so much for that. That's incredible. I mean, again, we've got lots to learn. We have our own programming here, and it's just always so fascinating to learn how others are implementing the same kinds of goals as we've got on our own campus.
Yeah,
So
we're looking
thank
forward to
you.
collaborate all together.
Yeah, great.
Thank you. Thank you, Dawn.
Okay. So our fourth presenter today is Dr. Diane Pruneau. Dr. Diane Pruneau specializes in environmental education as a professor at the University of Moncton and is the director of the Littoral Avis Research Group. This is an organization that conducts research projects and pedagogical interventions in environmental education. Dr. Pruneau's national and international research programs have dealt with understanding the link people have with their environment, healthy cities education, climate change education, the development of sustainability competencies, and the use of design thinking in environmental problem solving. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome today Dr. Pruneau as she presents Using Design Thinking and Facebook to Solve a Plastic Pollution Problem in the Mediterranean Sea. Dr. Pruneau.
Hello. Hello, everybody. I'm talking to you from Quebec City, where we have a big storm. So I'm happy to participate in a conference online. So our research group includes a professor from 4 universities, 3 universities in Canada and 1 in Morocco. And we, in our research group, were interested to understand how we could accompany groups of people while they are trying to solve environmental problems. So my presentation today is about our last experiment that we made in Morocco. And it's about using design thinking and Facebook to solve a plastic pollution problem in the Mediterranean Sea. So as you know, I'm sure you know, plastic pollution is a global problem. Most oceans are invaded by plastics, and many animals suffer from that. They can eat plastic, they can be affected other ways too. So for this project, we work in the Alocema National Park, which is located on the Mediterranean coast of Morocco, near the city of Alocema. And specifically, we work in a small village called Badès. And this park is a protected site with important land and marine biodiversity. In Badès, they have a lot of plastic waste. The plastic is thrown by locals and visitors to the park, and then it's washed away by flood waters into the sea. And with the time, plastics break, increasing the presence of microplastics. And this plastic have lots of impacts on animals who eat these plastics, and also they are exposed to toxins that are fixed on plastics. So what did we do with this woman? Solutions to the plastic problem are not so easy to find for now. For now in this area, what they could do is reduce the quantities of plastic that they use or reuse it, but not recycle it. There's no system for recycling. So we began a project called Ressac sans plastique dans le parc Alocema. It was funded by Monaco. And we work with craftswomen of the Badès cooperative working together to solve the problem of plastic waste. It was a 1-year project. This is a picture of Bad Ice. As you can see, it's a very isolated village. And you can see also that the woman raised chicken. Why I talk about that is because the woman, because of the chicken and the turkeys, the women were already aware that the plastic cloud problem is there, because when they try to they kill their turkeys and cook them, they can find plastic in the stomach of the chicken. So what about using design thinking and Facebook? First, before COVID-19, we had a 2-day workshop with the women, and we created a Facebook group. We wanted to continue to work with them while we were at a distance. And we used the design thinking process. First, observation. In design thinking, it is very important to allow a lot of time to understand the problem and also to identify user needs. In this case, the women were the users. They were affected by the problem, and they would be affected also by the solution. And then synthesis, ideation, and prototyping and testing and communication. In design thinking, prototyping must be done really quickly and many times. So you have a definition of design thinking. We heard much about design thinking from 2006 by IDEO. It's defined as a creative and collaborative way to work during which intuition is taken into consideration. Many solutions are found, quick prototyping is made, failure is perceived as learning, and mostly consumer needs are taken into consideration. On the picture, you have an example of a product that was created with design thinking by students at the D School, which is at Stanford University. It's a kind of incubator for newborns in developing countries. What did we do with the woman first? First, we used the big microplastic survey from University of Portsmouth, UK, and we tested the presence of microplastics on their beach. There was a lot. And we also collected and sorted bigger pieces of plastic. And we also talk about the impacts of plastics on the animals with whom they share their area. And then synthesis. At first, our question, the problem that we wanted to solve was how could we reduce or reuse plastic in order to keep it from going into the sea. But talking with the woman, gradually it became, how could we find new ideas to make something pretty and worthy from an environmental point of view? You must remember they are a cooperative and they want to sell some products. So on the picture you have images of their first prototypes. On the painting on the right, you can see a painting where they glued some microplastics. They were their first prototypes. At this moment, COVID-19 began, and the women were confined in Bades. We were very glad that we had the Facebook group, because all the work continued on the Facebook group and also with the addition of a WhatsApp group. So at this moment, we continued to share, to assess and improve prototypes of products that could decrease the local uses of plastics and make marketable items from plastic waste. We communicated almost every day for 9 months. As you can see, their first prototypes, they were interesting, but not easy to sell. Again, first prototypes. As you can see, some of the prototypes could not be suitable for putting them in a suitcase, or they could be easily broken, but they were prototypes. So we think that these prototypes lacked aesthetics and they would have been difficult to sell. The problem was that the women were confined in their village, and it was difficult for them to go to Alosema, the town, to buy the necessary material for building prototypes. And also we were unable to send them some craft specialists or scientists for help. But we continue to share with them ideas all the time, and we use a lot of positive assessment. Then the woman, over the next few months, working almost every day, the woman gradually invented better techniques for reusing plastics and improved their products aesthetically and environmentally. You can see on the picture that the woman used CDs for making necklaces. Their bags for selling their products were more pretty, and they improve their products. That's the moment that we chose to conduct our research, and it was after 9 months, and we chose 11 evaluators from different domains in Canada and Morocco, and we asked them to comment and to provide scores on 35 prototypes of the craft woman. And then the evaluators' comments and scores were sent to the woman. The criteria that we used, there were 6. Ecological value: was the product able to reduce the quantity of plastics and microplastics released into the sea? Adaptation: were they marketable? Novelty, originality. Elaboration: were they aesthetic? Did they require fine work and attention to details? And fluidity. Fluidity is about the group of the 35 prototypes. So for this criteria, we asked the judges to only to comment and to give their opinion. The results: the average scores of the 35 prototypes was about 2.8. The fluidity, the judges said that it was excellent. They said that the woman provided a lot of different ideas. So you have an example of a product that scored high for ecological value. Best prototypes also with a good score for adaptation, kind of wall decoration made with a CD. Good score for novelty. You can see that the woman really invented new products. Good scores for originality. The woman thought by themselves that they could use plastic scraps and fill some toys, some made with fabric. They could put the plastic in the toys. But the judges told us that it could be dangerous toys because the kids could choke with that kind of toys. And also good scores for elaboration. The woman also thought about using plastic bags to fill some toys. It was really new ideas. Conclusion: the craft woman prototypes were good on the ecological value, elaboration, originality, and fluidity criteria. We still think that many prototypes still need improvement with elaboration and adaptation. They are continuing to work, and we will see what will happen. And it made us think much about the plastic waste problem. It's for us now, we know that it's a complex and difficult problem to solve because of the large everyday use of plastics. We think that solutions have to be applied by whole educated communities and sustained by new policies and new industrial processes. New forms of less damaging plastics should be invented. There are some that exist, but they are not very common for now. And education on the impact of plastics on human health is a good idea. People get involved when they think about their health, usually. And we also think that design thinking must be improved because people have to learn to think not only about themselves, but also to the animals and how the species with whom they share the environment. They must be invited during the process. They must be invited to think about that when they describe the problem, and also when they evaluate or assess their solutions. About design thinking, if you are interested to know more about design thinking, we wrote a pedagogical guide on this subject. It's in French and English. It's available online. You have the address. It's about how to use it, all the techniques that could be used at each stage of the design thinking process. And at the end, I want to show you the last prototypes of the women. They really are engaged and they want to try to use plastic. Thank you.
Merci, Dr. Pernod. Boy, I was really fascinated by how even the question changed when design thinking was in place, right? From just that plastics to how do we make the world more pretty and sustainable. That beautiful. I've never seen those criteria either. I thought those were really interesting ways of evaluating products. So thank you very much for your presentation. And I would like to now at this time open up our time. It looks like we still have some time left over today to be able to ask some questions of our presenters today. Is there anyone, I believe we'll be opening up the chat function. And I think we could start off a question for all presenters. I think that very useful. How could a Canadian university, like the University of Saskatchewan, help other spaces and places to fulfill their own SDGs, either in gender equality, which was part of the name of this particular session, or just equal education? So again, how could a Canadian university help other places and spaces or countries fulfill their sustainable development goals for equality or equal education?
I can try to answer that.
Okay, thanks, Sally.
From what I saw, it's actually inspired by all the presentations I saw. I think collaboration is really important and integral in this context. So seeing, in order to be able to connect globally, you have to actually have those kind of partnerships globally. So having instructors and having professors connect with other professors in other places in the world, you will be able to be exposed, and connecting students as well. So building this ecosystem of learning, integrating many disciplines, and integrating, like making students correspond and communicate with other students in other parts of the world, will give this exposure of other problems in other contexts. And this is how you build this kind of empathy. And I found this model very common in Europe, not really yet in Canada, but I think we're working on it. I think it's a great idea. All these presentations were inspiring, and I think we're on the way there.
Just want to piggyback Say's great ideas. I was thinking like, because just like our study looking at the teacher candidates' belief, and to answer Don's question, I think it's also very important to kind of like reflecting on our own belief, and then, you know, to understand the culture, because many times, like we can see in many presentations today, so we know that actually culture that make a big difference. So, you know, we would just have to, you know, kind of not just thinking inside of our box. Sometimes we will have to think outside the box, and we don't think that, okay, what we believe or what we are doing actually is superior to others. Instead, that we will have to really really understand ourselves and also reaching out to people, so that we will be able to kind of creating an equitable platform for everyone to participate. So for sure that we will have to really think about ourselves and other people, what other people are thinking. It may not be the same as we do, but we just have to be consider the way how we accommodating people, and then how we can collaborate people's in the ways that we was kind of sharing our knowledge and ideas. But at the same time, we also have to express our respect to culture. Yeah, so I think this is a great question, but somehow perhaps there is no quick answer to this, because obviously it's so diverse, what people do and thinkings, and especially in this difficult time, we are experiences the pandemic to some way that's similar, but obviously some people in some country was having more impact by COVID, because we may not we may not have the same resources that was available, right? So I would just try to kind of point out, just sharing some ideas I have in mind with all of you. Thank you.
I would mention just two things that I would do in the place of University of Saskatchewan. One would be very simple. I mean, I think you have to connect with global communities, and Tec de Monterrey has benefited a lot of its membership with the SDSN. I don't know whether or not you are already a part of the network, but it is a very interesting network. One can really share a lot of experiences. I will also encourage to be a part of the University Global Coalition. But that's my first comment, which is not the most important. The most important is I suggest that the university could organize or could help to organize a multi-actor alliance focused on the challenges on sustainable development of your province, focus on Saskatchewan realities, and how to organize this multi-actor alliance focus on the challenges sustainable development represents for the Saskatchewan province or some of its local communities. In that sense, you can provide the basis for development, sustainable development agenda, a sustainable development strategy, a transformative strategy to overcome the main challenges that you can identify. I think this is exactly the most precious treasures that we have at the universities, that we can develop the necessary studies to identify the challenges we are facing as not only as a university, but as communities. If you are able to organize a multi-actor alliance, a local multi-actor alliance, I guess you will be putting the first step, the first brick in a very important wall. That's what I say. Not a wall for separation, by the way, but a construction. Those would be my comments.
Thank you very much. Dr. Pernod, would you have anything to add?
Mute. Okay. I think that people, you have to work on the challenges, like the ambassador said. You have to work on challenges that people face, and it's a good idea to exchange about the challenges that you have on maybe one subject in Saskatchewan, and also with people who have another challenge in another country, and to put together are your strengths to solve the problem together. Not just telling that they have problems. In Canada, we also have problems, and sharing about the same problem or about different problems with the students at the university. It works.
Mm-hmm. So I'm hearing focus on local, keep it collaborative, and make sure that when you do build those alliances outside of the local, that you are respectful of the cultural differences in those different places. So thank you. Thank you. I'm also starting to moderate here some of the questions I'm seeing in the chat. So I'd like to be able to start going through some of those. We have Nicole has talked to Dr. Lin, Nicole's an international university student. Oh, it's moving fast. Hang on. So Nicole's asking, what are some tips to educate the public about inclusion and different kinds of disabilities? So Dr. Lin, that's directed to you.
Thank you for Nicole's feedbacks and questions. This is a great question because, like in my classes, I often, discuss with my college students about how we will be able to educate the students in their classroom, as well as that maybe the parents or even the people in the community about disability. So there's a lots of the strategy we can do. For example, for the young child that may not be able to understand why some students will have the special treatments, that those special treatment can be like different kind of accommodation or adaptation. There's a teacher in the classrooms will be able to provide to the student with special need to overcome, to bypass some of the disability they have. So I was saying like the first things we could do is that we will, try to educate young children when they are young, because, once they are young, they understand why the people are different in their classrooms. They will be, kind of having empathies that's, and sympathies towards the peoples that from the diverse backgrounds and experiences. So I was saying like educating child from they are young about the disability and also we will need to teach our children with special needs about how to advocate themselves. So it's about like teaching self-advocacy skill to the child with special needs. So they will be able to kind of communicate with the people around about what their needs are. So it definitely is, self-advocacy skills not need to be taught to the child with special needs. So they will be understand themselves, understand why they will have certain special needs, and they can accept it, and also teaching the people that they work with. So in a ways that, it's very important to create that, mutual inclusive understanding about children with and without special needs in the classroom, or even broader in the schools or in the community. So for sure, there's a lot we can talk about. And another thing is that because my research was about accommodation, so it would be, there is a different type of accommodation can be provided to the child with special needs. For sure, the child and the teacher will have to understand what adaptation and accommodation strategy that can be used in schools and in the classroom. So I think it's very important to kind of letting the children and the teacher understand the use of accommodations, and then so that will be very helpful for them to assess and teach the students and addressing their special needs in the classroom. And for sure that there's a lot of things we can do in the classroom that to teach children about the differences of the equality and equity. Because sometimes we use that, the equality and equity interchangeably, but like there's still differences between these two terms. And so understand these terms will helping the teachers of students with special needs to implementing, because sometimes those terms are is big term, but actually that should be implemented in the classroom. Sorry, that's a very long answer, but I hope that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lin. I have a number of questions here for all the speakers. One of them that's been initiated to Ms. Abu Sabaa was based on the findings in terms of opportunities and challenges with the integration of SDGs in the EAP. What recommendations might you have for others who are interested in designing similar initiatives?
That's a great question. I went into this initiative knowing that I have resources that I can rely on, which is our amazing teachers experts in the field of language learning, and also knowing that we are really a research hub at ULE, like New York University English Language Institute. We embark on several projects a year. We're really engaged. So what I would advise is be flexible and open to challenges. So try to provide the foundation where you can build, where you can not limit, kind of frame your initiative, and at the same time provide flexibility and trust and encouragement. And it's okay for things to go wrong, because as you are piloting as well, there are things that are going to go wrong. There are resources that are not going to be suitable, and encouraging instructors to, it's just like learners, to make mistakes, to try things on and try other methods. It will yield to a better result. Continuous encouragement provides also not a competitive environment. It's a kind of a collaborative environment. So when you exchange material, when you exchange resources and say like, oh, this has worked in this class, this has worked with this student, you will see that other teachers like, oh, maybe we can add this on that. Maybe you can add another activity. And I saw the outcome of this at the end, when even the teachers were not really sure what they were doing. At the end is going to yield to this or not. I was not sure. The final students webinar that we did the last day of the course, where the students were presenting in like a kind of conference format, showed us that what we have done and worked on with the experimenting of all the resources has actually worked. So flexibility is really important. Providing the basic and foundation of everything is really important as well. Thank you.
You use design thinking, and of course it shifted as COVID came into being. You had to sort of redesign how you did the research using Facebook, etc. How did your idea of using design thinking, did it shift over time when you had to really shift and pivot with the COVID that came in terms of working with the group of women, working through a research project and coming up with conclusions in the end? How did design thinking itself have to shift as a consequence of the pandemic?
Okay, it was already decided that we would have a Facebook group, because our whole research project is about design thinking and also using technological tools to complement the process. So it was already decided that we would have a Facebook group. This is something that we did with another project in Morocco. So it was already decided. And we use in other projects, like in Université Laval in Quebec, we use other tools to complement design thinking. In Université Laval, we use knowledge forum with the students while they are not with us, with the teachers, with the professors. They continue to solve the problem on knowledge forum. At Université d'Ottawa, we use the Miro, which also is a technological tools, collaborative, and the work on solving the problem continues on Miro. So it's not the first time we do that.
Okay, thank you. I have been told by our moderators that it is time for me to give up the floor and to make sure that we thank each of you for being bringing your words today, bringing your presentations forward. It's been a fantastically diverse presentation this afternoon. So thank you very much for contributing to PAW 2021. And we really hope we will see you in the next round of the conference. So with that, I will turn it back to our MC and have a lovely afternoon to each of you.
Thank you, Professor Wallin. And to all the presenters in the session. It's been very insightful and there's much to learn from each one of you.